Hello, I'm Paddy Delaney, and welcome to Integrated Infrastructure, a podcast dedicated to bringing you news and views from industry leaders involved in the development, design, construction and management of the many built forms that make up Australia's integrated infrastructure. This is episode 18 of Integrated Infrastructure, and this week I'm joined by the invigorating Elinor Moshe. Elinor is the founder of The Construction Coach, where she guides, inspires and directs future leaders and industry professionals to propel their careers, achieve higher compensation, faster promotion and more recognition. This week we talked about Elinor's own journey into the world of mentoring, her light bulb moment when she realised that she could combine mentoring and construction, two things that she was absolutely passionate about. We talk about how she went from blogging to podcasting to having a best-selling book and establishing herself as a thought leader in the mentoring space. We talk about the difference between a coach and a mentor, why it's so important to invest in your career, to make the time needed, and not to settle in an orchestra of excuses that might be holding you back. Elinor offers up some tough love and straight talking that will leave you feeling motivated to take control of your career. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Elinor. Elinor, welcome to Integrated Infrastructure. Thanks ever so much for coming on today.
It's my pleasure and privilege, and really good to be on the other side of the microphone.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk about your podcast in a minute and give you a plug on that. But as you know, we're a short form podcast, so we're going to jump straight into it. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you're all about?
Of course, I am an ambitious and driven thought leader in the construction industry. I'm the founder of The Construction Coach, which is Australia's first construction coach. It's my mentoring business, which guides, inspires and directs future leaders and industry professionals to construct their career. I'm also the host of Constructing You, which is my podcast, and author of a best-selling book, Constructing Your Career, which is really for people who seek unconventional career insight and with wisdom to construct their career, of course.
Fantastic. And that's exactly why I was so interested in talking to you, because having been on my own podcast journey this year, and the reason we set up the podcast originally was to really try and help those people that were stuck at home through lockdowns and struggling because of COVID and maybe getting to a crossroads in their careers and not really knowing where to go. And we started off talking to people like David Harding and Joanne Manning from Arup about their journeys and through their careers and where they went for advice and help to try and sort of mould them. And one thing sort of came out of that was that the people and the mentors that they've had along the way. And Kirsty Edwards talked about it recently on a couple of podcasts ago about how valuable her mentor has been and helping with that sort of career development. So that's why I was so excited about talking to you. So thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast today. To start off with, why don't we talk about your mentoring journey, about where you were and sort of where you've come to now in terms of mentoring.
I got to a point in my career where I felt quite stuck and I stagnated, because the thinking that got you to where you are today isn't the thinking that was going to get me to where I wanted to go. And I was at that very crossroads, realizing that, is this it? This cannot be it. This cannot be everything that I have sacrificed and worked for. And to a level, it felt really unfulfilling. So I started the process of asking myself, first and foremost, better questions. If you want to achieve better results in your life, you have to upgrade the quality of your questions. And I started journaling. That was my process of introspection and my vision as a whole. And it came to me. And because, when you have a vision, that starts becoming your pull motivation. And I didn't know how I would achieve it. I knew what it was and why I wanted it. And when you have that high level of belief and you have that clarity of power in your vision, the universe will align people and opportunities around you to become the vehicle to make that happen. And on the 16th of June, 2019, I went to an event. It was a LinkedIn event. And I met my now mentor, Ron Malhotra, and I so vividly remember experiencing Ron on that evening. Everything that he was saying just cut through everything, and everything that Ron was and is was what I was aspiring to. And that's why when, the fundamental rule of seeking mentoring is you have to engage with someone who has the results that you want. If they don't have the results that you want, their advice also doesn't mean anything, because their advice has gotten them to where they are today. So when I saw Ron, we had a few conversations, and he showed me the third path to having a career. You can be a traditional employee, you can be a traditional entrepreneur, or you can go down the thought leadership route and being an expert in your industry, being an authority within your industry. And he showed me this path, and I certainly didn't know how it would unravel. The fact that I would get to be a guest on, so many podcasts and have a book, and I saw none of that. But Ron had such a high level of belief in me from the outset. And all I had to do back then was to take the first step. Because with mentoring, we're never going to drag someone to the start line. If we have to drag someone to the start line, you also have to drag them to the finish line. And that actually enables people. We give people, as much information as they need to make an informed decision up front. But the first step towards mentoring is always on the individual. And I knew enough about myself at the time, and I believed enough in me that every time I set my mind to something, I achieve it. I've seen that pattern in myself, and I knew this wouldn't be any different. And with hand on heart, I can say that was one of the best decisions that I have made in my adult life, because not just the experience of working with Ron is phenomenal. There is, so many emotional, intangible outcomes that was associated with the mentoring process. But then, of course, there are the results that people see from the outside. It's, having sold out masterminds and events and the book and the podcast and the brand and the authority. Like, there's so many things that people see, but that came through, first and foremost, 8-9 months of really intense, deep work. The work that people avoid their whole life, that run away from, I went straight into it. And that's why I love mentoring so much, and the experience that you can actually impress on other people. And, I do the same with my clients. And I know that I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am today if it wasn't for making that investment first and foremost in myself via the vehicle of mentoring.
That's fantastic. But you've invested in your career and worked very hard, and from what I can tell, before the mentoring. But was the mentoring a light bulb moment for you then, in terms of this? I didn't know I wanted to do this, but God, this is good.
That, yes, because Ron showed me a path that was very unconventional, and no one in the professional context, especially not in construction, would ever realize that this is a world of opportunity. And, that's one of the things with Ron. He has such an expansive worldview. And I am the same. I don't think in terms of boxes or trying to fit my career inside of a box. But mentoring as a whole, when I first stepped into industry, I also had a mentoring relationship. And that expired because some mentors can only take you so far. And that's meant to happen. If you aren't growing a mentor sometimes, then you're also not getting to experience what else there is. So it really depends on the caliber of the mentor that you're working with. If you're working with a mentor who has such a limited worldview, that's all that you get to experience. But hang out with the Rons and myself of the world, the opportunities are just endless and abundant. And I always knew that mentoring was the vehicle in which I could lean into someone else's experience and save myself time. I'm very time sensitive. I wouldn't have spent, first mentor Ron. I wouldn't have figured it all out by myself. I'm not foolish enough to think that, I have such a big ego. I need to figure this all out myself and I need to do this by myself. Absolutely not. So I realized very early on, there's so much I don't know. But a mentor or a mentor figure, they do have insight. They do know. And when you lean into someone else's experiences, you are bypassing a lot of the failures, and you are really not just internalizing, but contextualizing what is going on, why is my career like this? Mentoring really allows someone else to hold up a mirror for you to see clearly. And I was very lucky to strike up a mentoring relationship when I did first enter into the industry, and I experienced that benefit straight away. And I always knew that I will always have a mentor.
Mm. But you've not just come into mentoring in general. You've taken what you know about construction and applied that specifically to our industry. How's that been, being able to take two things that you're passionate about and then sort of create something new?
That's everything, because it was the realization that, hang on, there is something which could marry two worlds for me. And it wasn't about you can only have one or the other, because that is such a conventional way to think about it, or to think that, no, I must have a conventional career. And when I am done with that, only then can I mentor. Even when I was in year 3, 4, 5 of my career, I would have people coming up to me at events, or would be speaking at industry events and and people would always look to me and say, how do you have this successful career? And at the time, I didn't feel that I had the successful career, but people were seeing that within me. And when, people say, what should I build a business around? Well, you should build a business around what people always ask you questions for, which for me was career success, career insight. And conventionally, yes, people think they need to be two separate things. But again, what I did was I asked the universe a better question. I said, how can I reach more people with my message, with what I am so passionate about, what gives me so much passion. Like I love being in my mastermind sessions. I love the energy that they get. I love the energy that they bring. I love seeing their transformation, and for them to, to feel this sense of lightness. There's so much that they get to experience. And I asked a better question, and it was April 2019 that the universe just downloaded into me the construction coach. And I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know that it would be a private mentoring business at the time. I said, I'll just do a blog. That's how I will communicate and reach people. But I'm glad I at least started with that, because that turned into events, and those events turned to workshops. Those workshops turned into masterminds. That turned into private mentoring. So for me, it's a phenomenal experience to have such a unique value proposition to the industry, and to really marry both worlds of, like you said, construction and mentoring.
That's fantastic. So that's your story. Let's talk about mentoring, and then what's mentoring in a practical sense, in terms of how can people benefit from it in their careers? What does it actually look like in terms of actionables and a day-to-day process? And can you talk to that for a second?
Of course. First of all, I would love to differentiate between a mentor and a coach, because that is also a common misconception that people have when they look for a mentor and they look for a coach, and they're actually two different things. So a coach asks you to bring 100% to the table, and a coach helps you sort through your ideas and create clarity. They will keep you accountable, and they tend to only have experience in a very specific area, and they cost a lot less than a mentor. But in a mentoring relationship, a mentor will bring 50% to the table, but you have to bring 50% to the table as well. A mentor guides you towards what you need to do based on their expert experience. And working with a mentor, and this is really the transformation that I experienced, was having valuable strategies and visions for your business. Taking the construction coach from just a blog to where it is today was with the input of my mentor. The thing with mentoring, they have done it. They have already done it. They speak from a space of experience, and they are at least 2-3 steps ahead of you, if not more. And they certainly cost a lot more. Not cost, the investment is higher than a coach. It's not that having a coach isn't valuable. I have had coaches back then for certain areas, but when it comes to creating that holistic transformation in your business, in your career, in your life, a coach certainly isn't enough. You need a mentor. And I hope that, answers your question, but mentoring allows you to not just expand your philosophy, expand your worldview, but they also show you what you don't know and what you don't know that you don't know, and then they will give you the tools as to saying this is how it's done. But the implementation part is always on you, because if someone is doing it for you, they are enabling you, and they're not actually setting you up for long-term success. And that's how people actually go from mentor to mentor or coach to coach, because they're not actually having the right experience when it comes to mentoring, and they may have been burnt once, so they don't do it anymore. And the like. But on a day-to-day basis, it really comes down to always doing the work. Like the transformation that people are seeking when they engage in a mentoring relationship actually happens via doing, not just saying, oh, this was fantastic to learn, I'm just going to wait until the next session and not do anything about it.
Yeah, right. How do you identify a mentor, and how do you approach a mentor?
Good question. Identifying a mentor, it's about looking at the results, as I said before, that they have in their life. You have to look at their results. If you want what they have achieved, then you will, you might strike up an informal mentoring relationship if that is an opportunity, or, there are mentoring businesses, so an actual formal program that has, outcomes, and this is what you'll achieve and this is what you will get. I also think with mentoring, would I trade places with them? If I wouldn't trade places with a mentor, then I also don't want their advice. I don't want the lifestyle, career, business that they have. There is no shortage of information. There is shortage of insight, but people have to actually vet who it is that they want to work with, because you're going on a journey with someone. You're starting here and you want to be there. There's a high level of trust. There needs to be a high level of vulnerability. And if you don't actually have that, energetic alignment with that person, and you're simply looking at it from, credentials or their degree or something very superficial, that's not a way to assess mentoring. And where people also hold themselves back when it comes to mentoring is the financial investment. People have a common misconception that mentoring should be free, but what they're failing to realize is that this mentor has spent so much time themselves. They've sacrificed, they've done the hard yards, they have solved this problem for themselves and other people. It's such a false sense of entitlement to think that someone can just walk up and want it for free. The mechanic won't fix your car for free. The doctor will charge you. You want to stay alive and breathing, you pay. But when it comes to their career, people have this really, huge sense of entitlement that someone should pour into them endlessly, but not actually give anything in return. Because mentoring is about an energy exchange. There has to be an exchange. It's not a one-way street.
That's a really good point. I had never thought about it in that way. And so there are those that you invest in, and then there are those that do it willfully, aren't there? There are those that people like who love doing it. But then going back to the how do you approach? So how do you find somebody who you can invest in and do that side of stuff? But I'm still keen to understand how you think you would approach somebody, whether they were paid or unpaid.
First of all, it's you start a conversation. It's reaching someone. So, for example, when people come up to me, they will say, "This is where I am, and this is what I'm trying to achieve, and can I work with you?" or something like that. Then I get them on a call. I need to talk to people and actually run a diagnostic to understand if they actually understand the problem and if they know what they need to do. And if I am the right person to help them, because there are situations where what they're looking for, that's not what I can provide for them. So we're not the right fit. But it actually starts with reaching out and actually understanding, before you reach out to a mentor, what is your level of commitment? Because some people are just interested in mentoring, thinking it's a nice to have. But if you're not committed, if you're not 100% committed to a mentoring relationship, paid or unpaid, you're not getting the most value out of it, and you're also not going to give enough into it. If it is someone that, say it is in the industry, that you feel that their experience commercially or otherwise is going to be of huge benefit to you, well, you need to ask the question. That's really what it is about. But not from the perspective of what can you get. It's like, what can you give them first?
Yeah.
Add value to that person's business first. Yes, you want something, but you also have to look from the perspective of that person. If they are, let's just say, an A-lister, Richard Branson, for example, I'm sure many people would love to have Richard Branson as a mentor. How are you going to add value to Richard Branson first so they can actually see you out of the crowd of people, that you're not just someone who's going to suck their time, not actually, add value to them as well, and also actually do what they say. So when they pour into you, they're actually seeing results as well.
Mm-hmm.
People also really need to think, what is my approach? If I want someone to sacrifice their time out of their life and what they're working on to pour into me, how can I first and foremost add value to them first? That is that if it is in the free context. But if it is in the, you're signing up to a program or whatnot, it's understanding what is your level of commitment here, and are you actually willing to do what it takes to get the results?
Well, that's an interesting point, because I love, by the way, on your podcast that you interview some fantastic guests, but then in between you've got your in-between episodes where you're talking about particular topics that are pertinent to your mentoring program, and the one I just dipped into earlier today, you talk about time and making time. And I think you expressed it like when your life is so busy, how do you fit something else in? Well, you need to try and make that time. And I just wondered whether you could talk to us about how you made time for mentoring in your life, and the decisions that you had to make to be able to do that. Because I think that's probably the hardest thing for people to get hold of, is managing their own time. I know it's something that I struggle with. And getting that time in. So how did you manage it?
First of all, when people say not the right time, or I don't have time for this, what they are doing, they're actually reinforcing their lack of time. So they're continuing to play the same excuse, I don't have time. And we live in a world that is created from the inside out. So when you constantly say, I don't have time, that is exactly all that you see and all the capacity that you see. How I approach it was, okay, I was standing at the outset of a mentoring decision. Here's my container, and this is all that fits into it right now. And so instead of looking at my container and saying it's full, it's like, how can I get a bigger container so I can put more into it, so I can actually do more? And it's about making it a priority. Whatever you make a priority gets done. People make work a priority, so they go to work. People make job hunting a priority, so they do that. If fitness is all of a sudden a priority, well, you would hope that they see that through as well. So I made it a priority. No matter how busy I wasn't going to fall into my own orchestra of excuses and then let a whole year go by and I still haven't. You're laughing at that term.
I love that term, orchestra of excuses. How good is that? It's so true.
It is. They're the conductor and they're like, woodwind section, and so much time having this perfect orchestra instead of actually listening to their own excuses and going, hang on, I've constructed this reality. This isn't what I wanted. What can I do differently?
Yeah.
It's about prioritizing. And that's why the energy exchange is important, because how many free courses are sitting in everyone's inbox right now? I've got like 20 from, I didn't even know how I'm never going to do them. Who am I fooling? I put an investment in myself, and when I put my money where my mouth is, yes, I'm going to make that a priority because I want to get the maximum ROI from that investment. And that is how I think. I operate not from a space of gain and loss, it's ROI. So people are saying, I don't have time. Well, hang on, how can I make time? Where can I find more net time? Where are people leaking time? Is it watching Netflix? Is it being a yes man? Every time a friend needs you, you jump and you're there? Is it working on everything but yourself because you're in a state of avoidance and lack?
I feel like you're asking me these questions and putting pressure on me.
You're not under interrogation. It's okay.
I'm feeling guilty and excited at the same time. It's great, though. No, it really is. I love your energy. It really is good. Look, you're in Melbourne. We know that Melbourne has been in lockdown for so long now, and hopefully starting to come out of lockdown now. But it's really put a lot of, we talked earlier about small businesses and what have you, which is really tragic, and we hope that they improve. But it's put people in construction and engineering, even though we're probably going to be one of the least hit areas, it's still challenging and going to be a difficult time. And there are people who were maybe already at a career crossroads, or even are now at a career crossroads because of COVID. What's your advice to them in, right now in this market? How would you help them sort of get up and get on, in their careers?
There was a study done by McKinsey and Co. Global, and they found that construction is going to be the hardest non-direct hit industry out of the pandemic, second to retail and tourism and hospitality. Construction was right up there. And what people need to realize was they came into the construction industry, they got on the boat, but now they have possibly found themselves to be on this boat. There's no life raft, there's no oars, there's no safety vest, but they're on the high seas traversing this career in construction, and they have found themselves to be absolutely exposed. COVID hasn't caused the situation of how underprepared people are when it comes to their career. It hasn't caused it, it's exposed it. It's something that was always there. Now it's just brought it to blatant daylight, because people need to think, when you are setting out on, this career in construction, you found your industry, you found what you love working on. Are you not just a capable sailor when the seas are calm, but are you also a very capable sailor when the seas are rough, and they are going to be absolutely rough? So people need to start actually taking a moment and realizing, do I actually have a high income skill set? Do I have a mindset that will actually allow me to be successful? Because having knowledge and skills without mindset and energy, I do not believe that you can be successful. You can teach someone, you can give someone all the tools, all the skills, but if there is no mindset and energy that is not aligned, that doesn't actually allow them to move out of their own way, to not be defeated, to trust the process. I mean, mindset is a whole other podcast topic within itself. Then people actually need to realize, I'm underprepared. If people are relying purely on traditional academic systems in order to safeguard and secure their career, they are, again, fundamentally wrong, because relying on a qualification to safeguard your career, well, A, it's a cheap good because everyone has it. B, people need to realize that the academic system was founded in order to produce laborers for a capitalist society. It wasn't produced to give people a life of freedom, a life of success, a life of fulfillment. It was created to create laborers for capitalists. So people actually right now need to first of all start expanding their worldview, understanding that how careers have always been is not how it's going to be moving forward. And if people aren't taking their own self-actualization and self-development in their own hands and relying on companies to do it for them and relying on traditional education to do that, they are going to find themselves very, very exposed come either a greater recession that we are in or a greater pandemic, because history repeats itself. You only need to look into the past to see that it happens, and it's going to happen. So people need to ask themselves, do I want to be where I am right now if this situation was to repeat itself? Because if the answer is yes, well, okay, power to you. I hope that's a conscious decision. But if it's no, then you need to start working on your mindset, your skill set, and actually taking massive and immediate action to respond to that.
Yeah, fantastic. There are so many questions I could ask you, but I don't want to steal all of your secrets, and I'm sure you won't give them to me for free anyway. And people can find you in lots of different places anyway. So just remind us where we can find you and how we get in touch, and yeah, go for it.
People can connect with me for more unconventional and holistic career insight on Instagram. I'm at Elinor Moshe. I'm on LinkedIn, Elinor Moshe. My website is elinormoshe.com, and my book is Constructing Your Career, available on Amazon and Booktopia.
In hardback and electronic version as well, isn't it?
Electronic and paperback, absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant, excellent. I think I'll be downloading it for my Kindle and seeing if I can learn something from it. So it's very good. Look, thanks ever so much for coming on today. I've had to stop myself from asking you more questions because we are a short form podcast, but you've honestly left me feeling guilty and pumped at the same time. Which I think is awesome because I've got to get some stuff done. But no, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm sure there's some fantastic ideas and thoughts and direction that you've offered the people that are going to be listening to this podcast. So thank you ever so much. But before I let you go, my pleasure. Before I let you go, tell us what are you excited about right now? What are you looking forward to?
To get to do everything that I wanted to do this year. I'm so excited to meet people in person. That's my clients. I see them on Zoom every week, but I want to share a room with them. It's doing events. It's rolling out so many new programs that the industry needs. It's doing more of what I already am. I love the speaking. I love the writing. I love the mentoring. So I'm excited about the form and the impact that is going to take in 2021. So as always, watch this space.
Absolutely. Well, look, kudos to you and congratulations for making such a splash in 2020 when it's been such a challenging year. So well done. And I would love to have you back on the podcast in the future, and we'll see how your journey is going. But for the time being, thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Integrated Infrastructure is powered by North Search, specialists in executive and technical search across engineering, design, construction, property and energy markets in Australia. If you'd like to find out more about North Search or get involved with this podcast, you can click on the links in the show notes or email me directly at the address on the screen. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Integrated Infrastructure. Please tell your friends and colleagues if you did, and we hope to see you again soon.